Hey, first grade, what's up? All right, so today we are going to read another fable. This one is called The Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. All right, we're going to split this one up into 2 days. We're going to do our read aloud today and our questions tomorrow. All right, so at the end of these 2 days, at the end of tomorrow, we will have been able to review the characteristics of fables, including plot, characters, setting, and moral. Remember, our moral is the lesson. Um, Identify examples of personification in a fable. Remember, personification is when animals act like people. And define and use the word disguise, and then also the phrase a wolf in sheep's clothing. All right. Then we're also going to be able to use the appropriate article, either a or the, when describing pictures. Okay. So let's do our vocabulary. So we've got a few words today. Today we have disguise, fleece, flock, pretend, and prowled. Okay. All right. So disguise. This is a fun one. All right. And it's a noun. And a disguise is clothes or other things that you wear so that people don't recognize you. So if you look in that picture, you see that little boy's got those fake glasses and a fake mustache and a little bow tie on. And so he's trying to disguise himself. Whew. Excuse me. So that people don't recognize him. A way that we could use the word disguise in a sentence is we did not recognize Ty because of the glasses and wig he used as a disguise. Okay, so remember, disguise is clothes or other things that you wear so that people don't recognize you. My kitty is meowing. I don't know what she wants, but she is meowing. All right, our next word is fleece. It is also a noun, and fleece is a sheep's coat of wool. Okay, so remember sheep, they're really fluffy. So their wool coat is called a fleece. All right, and a way that we can use it in a sentence is the sheep farmer carried the fleece to the market. So that farmer took the coat or the sheep's wool coat and was selling it, going to go sell it at the market. Our next word is flock, which is a noun. And a flock is a group of animals or birds. Okay, so an example would be Zoe could hear a flock of geese flying over her house. So if you look in that picture, you see a group of geese flying. Oh. I don't know why I can't stop yawning. All right, can you say the word flock for me? Can you whisper it? Flock. Can you say it in a mouse voice? Flock. All right. The word flock is a group of animals or birds. Our next word is pretend. Okay. You've probably heard this word before. Pretend. To pretend is to try to be or act differently than what you actually are. Okay. So, an example of this in a sentence is, I think it is fun to pretend to be different characters that I have read about in books. So maybe you wanted to, if you've seen when I read my stories, I change my voice when I'm reading what a character is saying. So when we were reading The Boy Who Cried Wolf, anytime that the boy who cried wolf was crying wolf, I changed my voice. Instead of just being my normal voice, I was pretending to be the shepherd boy, and I was like, wolf, wolf. Do you remember that? That was me pretending, okay? Because I don't normally go around like that. I don't know about you, but I don't. And if you look at this picture, you can see that that girl is pretending that the kitty cat and the teddy bear are having a tea party with her. So pretend is to be or act, or to try to be or to act differently than what you actually are. Now, our last vocabulary word for this story is proud. And proud is a verb. Remember, our verbs are action words. And proud means to walk or move around quietly, searching for prey to eat. Okay. Sometimes my kitty, she goes on the prowl and she's prowling and she's watching my dogs and she wants to jump out and get them. And they just play, but she does it for fun. But she gets down and she's going, okay. And if you look at this picture, you can see that panther, he's prowling. Okay. So if someone prowled, that means they're walking around or moving really quietly in search of prey and sometimes to eat. All right. So let's do a little review. So the last time that we met, we read The Dog in the Manger. Do you remember that one? What were what happened in The Dog in the Manger? There were some oxen that were tired and they went into the barn to get some hay, right? But why couldn't they eat their hay? What had happened? The dog was in there and the dog was sleeping on the hay, right? And when the oxen asked, holy moly, I am yawning a lot. When they went in there and they asked the dog to move, the dog got mad and said no, right? What are some characteristics of a fable? So what is something that a fable has? It has characters. What else does it have? A setting. I'm trying to think of any other ones. A plot, which is your beginning, middle, and end. And sometimes they have, or all fables have morals or lessons, right? But not all stories have a moral or a lesson, right? But fables, they've got character, setting, plot, and a lesson or a moral, okay? How do we know that the dog in the manger was a fable? How do we know that it was a fable and that it wasn't just a random made-up story? Because it had what? What did the dog in the manger have that most stories don't? It had a lesson, right? So it's short. So it has a lesson. It's short. It's fiction, and it uses personification. Remember, personification is when animals act like humans. So those characteristics made it a fable. Okay, so today's fable also has all these characteristics, making it a fable like the other stories that you've heard so far. The first fable that you heard was The Boy Who Cried Wolf. What animals were in that story? Do you remember? Sheep and a wolf at the end. Do you remember what the shepherd boy did to prank the villagers? I want to see you guys pretend to be the shepherd boy. What did he do to prank the villagers? He went, wolf, wolf, right? And there really wasn't a wolf. He was just pretending. And what happened when the wolf actually came? The farmers didn't come to help, and the wolf ate the sheep, didn't they? He ate the sheep. All right. Moving right along. So in today's Read Aloud, you're going to see this picture right here, okay? And I want you to tell me, what characters do you see in this picture already? What do you see? Look carefully. Don't be tricked. I see some sheep, right? Some sheep. I see a shepherd. I see what I think is like a herd dog, like a guard dog kind of thing. Look at this sheep, because it doesn't look quite the same as the others. What is this? Is this a sheep? No, it's not a sheep. That's a wolf. And it's dressed up in a what? In a disguise, okay? Can you describe the setting for me? Where is the story taking place? Look at the background. What does it look like? It's a field, right? So this read aloud is going to have a lot of the same types of characters and a similar setting to those in The Boy Who Cried Wolf. But today's story is going to teach a different lesson. So remember, the lesson from The Boy Who Cried Wolf was that you should tell the truth, because if you lie, then when you are telling the truth, people might not believe you. But today's story is going to have a different lesson or moral. All right, so I want you to listen carefully to the story to find examples of personification. And I want you to raise your hand anytime that you hear an example. But here's the tricky part, because I want you to still raise your hand whenever you hear our key vocabulary words. Remember, our key vocabulary words are disguise, fleece, flock, pretend, and proud. Okay. So you're going to raise your hand if you hear one of those 5 words, or if you hear an example of personification. And personification is when those animals are acting like people. All right. Night after night, a wolf prowled around a flock or a group of sheep looking for one of them to eat. But the shepherd and his dogs always chased him away. So that wolf was prowling or walking around silently looking for food, right? That wolf is wanting to eat those sheep. But one day the wolf found the skin of a sheep that had been thrown aside. He pulled the skin carefully. Can wolves really do that? No. He pulled the skin carefully over him so that none of his fur showed under the white fleece. Then he strolled among the flock in this disguise. So now the wolf, he doesn't look like a wolf anymore. Now he just looks like another sheep. What do you think this wolf is going to do now? Do you think he's going to try and eat the sheep? I don't know. Let's see. The shepherd, thinking about the wolf, was one of... I mess up. The shepherd, thinking that the wolf was one of his sheep, allowed the wolf to graze on the lush grass in the pasture or field, and even let him sleep in the warm barn with the sheep. For many days and nights, the wolf ate and slept better than he ever had. But one day, the shepherd decided to sell one of his flock at the market. He chose the biggest, fattest sheep he could find and brought him into town. Can you guess who it was? Let me read that part again, and I want you to listen really carefully to try and figure out which sheep the shepherd brought to the market to sell. Okay? Get those listening ears. For many days and many nights, the wolf ate and slept better than he ever had. But one day, the shepherd decided to sell one of his flock at the market. He chose the biggest, fattest sheep he could find and brought him into town. Which sheep do you think the shepherd brought? I think it was the wolf. Let's find out. Because think about it. If that wolf was eating lots of sheep that whole time, he's probably getting pretty plump, right? Remember we talked about the word plump or plumpest. So that wolf was probably the plumpest sheep that was in the flock, right? Let's see. It was the wolf. So the moral of this story is that things are not always as they seem, right? The shepherd thought that they were all sheep because the wolf was dressed up like a sheep, right? But it wasn't the way that the shepherd thought, because they weren't all sheep. One of them was a wolf. And so that's one part of the moral. And then the other part is if you pretend to be what you are not, you might end up losing in the end. Another way of saying that is be yourself. Okay. So the morals of this story was that things are not always as they seem, and be yourself. Okay. And we kind of learned already to be ourselves, and we kind of already learned about the importance of being ourselves and being unique when we read The Day You Begin. Do you remember that? And I talked about why it was so important to be you, because nobody else is quite like you. So why would you want to be somebody else? Okay. All right. So that was the story for today. And tomorrow we will talk about it more and we'll give you your activity. All right, sweet first graders, thanks for watching. See you later.